So good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 9 of CryptoBind Digital Insights. The topic for today is Key Management Solutions, a deep dive into CryptoBind KMS. So let's start right at the beginning, because I think a lot of people watching today may have heard the word cryptographic key, but aren't entirely sure what it means. So I'd like to bring in Gaurav and ask him to explain and how to demystify this for us. Gaurav.
Yeah, so good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining the session. I'm Gaurav Soni. So I'll be taking you through, certain questions which Sharda will be asking us. So Sharda, thank you so much for introducing us. So the question which you asked, what is cryptographic key? So let me just demystify that for you. So think of cryptographic key like a key to your house. Your data is like a house. It stays protected and locked, and the only correct key can open it. So a cryptographic key is a string of random bits. It could be 128 bits, it could be 256 bits, and that is what an algorithm uses to encrypt the data and decrypt it whenever it is needed. Here the challenge is not about managing many keys. It is about managing them over a period of long time. So, a key has a life cycle. Every key has a life cycle. So if a key has been used for years without being changed or rotated, it can become a security risk, because it may have been exposed or copied without anyone knowing about it. So this is basically what is a cryptographic key and basics about the cryptographic key.
Okay, so it's not just about having the encryption, right? It's also about knowing the status of every key at every moment, right, Gaurav?
Exactly, Shanta. So continuing to use an old key without checking its status is like
Yeah.
using an old house key without knowing who else might have a copy of it. That's why proper key management is very important. It helps to keep the data secure throughout the life of the key,
All right.
or
That,
basically of the data.
that's good. That's good. So now that we understand what key is, Harsh, can you walk us through the journey of a key? What are the all stages that it goes through? Can you also throw some light on that?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining in. So, yes, Shada, to answer your question, mainly when we talk about key life cycle, it obviously begins first with generation of the key. So, inside the key management system, there are various ways you can use to generate the key. If the key is already existing in any of the external environment in client's ecosystem, then you can import that key into the KMS to manage it centrally. It is a very big part called external key management. Once this key has been generated, then of course the major part comes about key usage. So the whole purpose of having these keys stored externally is to basically provide a higher level of security to these keys and manage it centrally. So that is obviously one aspect of it, but the keys need to be utilized for various operations such as signing or encryption. And that is another key part of the life cycle. Then what I would call is one of the most important steps from a security best practices point of view is your key rotation. So the rotation is basically whatever data has been encrypted with one key, you decrypt that data, you re-encrypt it with a new key. And that is how you ensure that the lifespan of a key or the lifespan of a valid key is controlled or maintained over the years, months, whatever. So once this life cycle is managed, then of course the keys which have been expired, they need to be deleted. You can either soft delete it, so that is basically you're going to archive the key in the KMS, or you can do a hard delete, which will basically completely wipe off the key material. So it's from generation to usage to rotation, which is very important from a security best practices point of view, and then deleting the keys which are not being utilized so that you can manage only those keys which are actually performing some functionality, or like expired versions. You can store them, but not which have been taken out of service very long ago, like that.
Okay. Okay. And CryptoBind KMS automate all of this, right, Gaurav? Would you like to add something on this?
Yeah, Shraddha. So the entire life cycle from the generation of key inside the HSM all the way to certified destruction, every step is logged, it is audited, or it is policy driven. So, and that is what makes it an enterprise grade solution. I'm talking about the KMS. Yeah.
That's great. Now we understand the journey of the key and what CryptoBind key is all about. I would like to address something that here I hear a lot of developers these days and IT teams talking about. They say we already store our keys. They are in our own configuration file or in database. Then why do we need a dedicated KMS? Gaurav, if you can also elaborate this.
Sure. So, this is the most common misconception we encounter, that it is, and it is very dangerous one also. When you store a key in a config file, so there are a few things which can happen if you store a key in a config file. First thing is that the key is in a plain text. So anyone who has the access to the file system can read the key. Second, the key is static, so it never changes from the time it is generated till the time it is, not kept into that config file. It never changes. Third is that there is no audit trail. So you do not have an idea who has read the key, when they have read it, or from where have they accessed the key. Fourth is that there is no access control. So the key is actually available to everyone who has the access to the server. Now, talking about the key management system, it is a purpose built, to solve all the above problems which I just said. So it actually, centralizes all the keys in one secure access controlled repository. Typically, it is backed by an HSM. It enforces role-based access. So only authorized applications and users can request a key. Second is that it logs every single access. Third thing is that it rotates keys automatically based on the policy or what has been set by the, the IT head or the CISO. And it integrates with your application through standard interfaces, just like KMIP, REST APIs, then there are PKCS 11 and JCA. So your application don't need to change fundamentally. They just point to the KMS instead of a file.
Okay. So configuration file gives you the illusion of the security, while the KMS gives you the actual security. I would like to bring in Harsh. Would you also like to elaborate on this point, Harsh?
So I would say that configuration files don't even provide this illusion of security. It is just that what matters here is who is actually keeping these keys and config files. So it's about the perspective. If you see this whole scenario, or if you talk about data protection from a developer's perspective, a developer is going to ensure that he's following best practices while actually developing the application or writing the code. So he's going to take the extra measures to enforce certain encryption mechanisms to make sure that his data is secured wherever it is traveling with the application. He's going to ensure that there are not any backdoors in the system. All those are, from a developer's point of view, the best practices. But how this key is being rotated or managed through maybe an external system is not something an average developer would really be concerned about. That is something that your security team or your system administrators, they need to bring into the whole picture. So config files are the best possible alternative, or as soon as it also, of course, provides very high performance, because keys, when they're stored close to where the data is actually residing, the encrypted data is residing, it is going to give you the massive performance gains. You don't have to involve any network latency for fetching the key from any other system. But again, as we have seen over various examples in the past also, there's always a trade-off between performance and security. So storing the keys on the same database config file, you're not going to get the security, but you'll get the performance. Storing it externally, you get more security, but there is obviously a performance add-on to be considered. So yeah.
That's great, Harsh. So, I would also like to highlight the biggest concern these enterprises these days face is in terms of the integration. They don't want to rip and replace. So, Gaurav, how does CryptoBind KMS plug into these environments? If you could also explain this one.
Sure. Sure. Integration is actually one of the strongest suits. So
Okay.
GISA has this as a strong point. So the primary protocol we use is KMIP, which is the Key Management Interoperability Protocol. So
Okay.
it is an OSS standard, which means it is supported by hundreds of databases and applications which are out of the world, right? So when you deploy CryptoMine KMS, so databases like Oracle, MS SQL, MySQL, and EDB Postgres, MongoDB, then IBM DB2. All these can connect to the KMS over cable. Then one more thing, PKCS 11 or EKM interfaces. So that's very easy to connect with our application. Talking about transparent data encryption specifically, so think of Oracle TD or SQL Server TD. So the database simply points to CryptoBind KMS as an external key manager. So the encryption keys are stored and managed in KMS, and it is not stored in the database file itself. So this is a no-code change for most of the standard database configurations. So beyond databases, we also support VMware, like vSphere. So we support it through our KMEP for the VM encryption or the virtual machine encryption. So we integrate with the big data platforms like Cloudera, so which is what we deployed for RBI's PCR public credit registry also. That was the project we did with RBI Bank. We also have REST API support for the application level or integration, application level integration, like and the PKCS 11 we use for the cryptographic libraries. And for the cloud, we integrate with AWS KMS Cloud in BYOK mode. Then apart from that, Azure Key Vault, Google Cloud KMS, and the Power BI also, we use BYOK as well, using BYOK thing also.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much for sharing those concepts, Gaurav. I'll come back to Harsh again and specifically ask what does CryptoBind KMS specifically do, and what makes it different from other solutions of the markets? I mean, just to highlight the USP of CryptoBind KMS, Harsh.
So I think the biggest strength about CryptoBind KMS specifically is the number of use cases that you can utilize it for. I mean, we see that players in the market such as AWS KMS or Azure Key Vault, not AWS that much, but Azure is very tightly coupled with Windows environment. You can't integrate it quite easily with any other application or any other system. Ours is something which is a very vendor agnostic or platform agnostic kind of a solution, be it legacy systems, be it multi-cloud environments, be it your NHI use cases, which are for credentials, dynamic secrets management. All of these you can manage centrally. So it's all about reducing the pain and hassle for the end customer of having to manage multiple repositories, multiple key management solutions, which are specific to a particular ecosystem. Ours is not like that. So, and another thing which I have noticed, of course, is that there are systems out there which are specific to, say, key management. Some specific systems such as HashiCorp Vault are for secrets management. Ours, we are having secrets management, key management, both of them in a single platform. And another thing that is very specific to, say, CryptoBind suite, it is the way we have positioned our KMS as the backbone of all of our BT products. So I know that the line of discussion for today's session is for KMS, but we have a whole suite of solutions which are for encryption, tokenization, masking, various products for the end customers' use cases around data privacy. So having a KMS as a centralized solution and all the others as maybe say a connector-based kind of solution that gives you, again, one solution to manage multiple others that are in your environment. So that is, I think, a very big USP of CryptoBind KMS.
Okay. And just a follow-up question, Harsh, again. Most of the enterprise today aren't purely on premises anymore. I mean, they are on AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and other data centers simultaneously. So how does CryptoBind KMS handle that complexity? If you can, deep dive into that as well.
So when we talk about hybrid environments, be it customers on-prem data center or their virtual private cloud or any other this, so we have in CryptoBind KMS the native capabilities to manage your BYOK kind of scenarios. So BYOK, whenever you talk about cloud key management, is a very important concept. What happens is nowadays there are regulations which are strictly mandating that your keys that are utilized in cloud environments, they need to be generated through an on-prem or external key manager. That is because there are proven examples in the industry out there that scenarios for vendor lock-in or scenarios where the services are cut off, or disrupted through no fault of the company. In such cases, organizations tend to get stuck with one particular cloud service provider because the approach that they follow is that if their services are running on a particular cloud platform, they are also going to naturally tend to utilize the cloud KMS system.
Okay.
So having so much reliance on an external party, a party who is never going to really give you the required amount of visibility as to how they are utilizing your keys, whether they are actually saying that the keys are fully in your control. We cannot trust. It's all about trust in the end of the day, right? So that is where bring your own keys measure or a say mechanism through which you can mitigate this risk to an extent. Bring your own key, however, does not really offer you any protection. In the end of the day, what you're doing is you're generating the keys on-prem. You're syncing it with the cloud key manager, and the cloud key manager is in the end going to utilize it for running your services or performing the actual security operations. Hold your own key is one concept which goes one step beyond. In HYOK, what happens is you are actually going to, at all times, call the on-premise key manager for encrypting and decrypting the data. In that case, KMS, that the cloud KMS is there, doesn't really have any significant role to play. So hold your own key is another thing which we have to offer at CryptoBind, and bring your own encryption also. So in that case, even before the data is sent to cloud or migrated to cloud, it is already in encrypted state before it is stored on cloud service providers platforms. Yeah.
That's good. So this one particular question is especially relevant for SaaS providers, and for this question, I'd like to bring in Gaurav. Gaurav, how does CryptoBind KMS handle multi-tenancy and ensure that one tenant's key are never exposed to another? I mean, keeping all things constant, how this multi-tenancy for CryptoBind KMS actually works, if you can also explain on this.
Sure, definitely. So multi-tenancy is a very important requirement. It is a very important requirement, and we have built a solution, to support it from the beginning. So both in the KMS and HSM layers. So at the HSM layer, CryptoBind HSM supports roughly around 32 isolated partitions, and each partition gets its own IP address, its own username and password, and its own policy set as well. So even at the hardware level, one tenant's cryptographic operations are completely isolated from another tenant. That is one thing. Another thing is that at the KMS level, we support, separate key stores. Okay. So there are separate access policies. There are separate audit logs for every tenant. For each tenant, it is different. all these three things are different. The tenant admin can only see and manage their own keys. Apart from that, he do not have access to the other partition, tenants details. So there is no path, actually, neither technically nor administratively, by which a tenant A can access tenant B's keys. So this is enforced at the architectural level. And it is not just, it is not just at the policy level. So it's basically at the architectural level. So that's not possible at all that one tenant can access another tenant's keys. And talking about, for the managed service providers or the SaaS providers, so what this cryptographic key management acts as, like it acts as like a, as a service to their own clients. So, each of whom get a logical and a physically isolated environment. They are within their own CryptoBind KMS deployment. So you can also enforce data residency requirement for every tenant. So, this means that, if the tenant wants their keys never to leave a specific geography, the policy can be enforced here.
All right. And Gaurav, I was also curious if one's tenant's environment was somehow compromised, let's say any tenant's environment has been compromised, would that cascade to the other tenants?
It wouldn't. So
Okay.
the partition architecture, it ensures that blast radius containment. That means a compromise or a misconfiguration in one tenant's partition cannot expose another tenant's keys. So that's the guarantee, and it's just not a policy claim. It is enforced by the hardware boundary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'd like to bring in Harsh for this question because this is a pretty confused question that is going around in the IT industry these days. So there's a lot of confusion in the market between HSM and KMS. So people think they are the same thing and they can replace with each other. So Harsh, can you just clear this question up?
Yeah, so I think why this confusion exists in the first place is because obviously these devices or these systems are more or less overlapping in most ways. But to sum it up or to give a very one-line differentiation between these two, it is that whatever the KMS or whatever the HSM does, whatever the HSM does, the KMS can do. But what the KMS does, the HSM cannot. Okay.
Right.
So if you talk about, say, having the keys stored in the most secure environment possible, the most secure way possible, the only one device or one solution it is pointing towards is the HSM, because it is built to a certain standard. It is built to a certain mechanism in which you cannot access keys in plain text format. You cannot physically break into the HSM to tamper with it. It is going to zeroize. So if security is of utmost priority, then you have to rely on hardware security modules. If performance is something which is of more importance or more value, then I would say the key management system that offers the actual flexibility in terms of how the key is used, how it is integrated with various end applications, then that is where the KMS becomes a more viable approach. So if you see it in like a hierarchical top-down kind of a manner, you have at the bottom your applications, your databases. You have one level above that, your key management system. And one more level above that, you have your hardware security module. So it's a hierarchy, basically, I'm trying to make you imagine. If you're storing the keys at the application level, like I said earlier, it is going to offer you the highest amount of performance, but it is not secure because you're storing it very close to where the actual data is residing. If you store it in the key management system, you are managing the keys centrally. You're making sure that the rotation policies and everything is being enforced centrally. But again, it is slightly going to affect your performance. Okay, because you're going to utilize the KMS over a network. If you move one more level further up, into the hierarchy, that is your HSM, that is not going to allow you to perform any operations outside of this cryptographic boundary. That is going to offer you the most amount of security, but you have to basically route all your traffic through the HSM to perform crypto operations. So obviously, it's not feasible to choose just one location where the key is residing. So the enterprise solution to this challenge is you have some set of keys residing at the application level or database level, some set of keys residing at the KMS level, and some set of keys, or one key rather, one master key residing at the inside the HSM. So as long as the master key is in the HSM, the keys underneath it that are in the KMS and in your applications or databases, they're all being secured because the trust anchor is on the HSM level. So that is how usually we have seen in enterprise deployments. It is always a combination of both HSM and KMS because it's to balance the trade-off between performance and security.
That's great. And thank you so much for clearing this question, giving the functionality of what KMS and HSM is all about. Now, my further question would be routed to Gaurav, and this is with regards to compliance. So compliance is no longer an optional. So especially with the DPDP Act rolling in, the RBI guidelines getting tightened up, how does CryptoBind KMS directly addresses this compliance's requirements? Gaurav?
So let us take each law one by one. So talking about DPDP, which is India's Data Protection Act, the core requirement is that the personal data must be protected with appropriate technical measures. So CryptoBind KMS enables encryption of PII at rest and in transit. So with the keys restricted to authorized systems and personals. Every access to that key that decrypts personal data is logged. That you have a complete view of or trail of who has accessed what and at what time. Talking about the another law, which is PCI DSS, which governs the payment card data. So there are explicit requirements around KMS, or around 2-3 things, which are like, one is dual control, another is split knowledge, and then third is key control, and fourth is audit trails. That means CryptoBind KMS, what it does, it enforces M of N authentication for critical key operations. And what does it mean? That no single person can access sensitive keys unilaterally. There has to be two people who need to approve or provide the this thing to access the key. There have to be two people at least. So out of the three, the key rotation can be automated by policy, and the audit logs is immutable. That means if somebody tries to change it, then there will be a line. It will show that somebody has tried to change that particular thing, and exportable for it, and it's exportable for the regulators. So now talking about the third law, which is RBI. So specifically the guidelines around the data localization and encryption of customers' data.
Correct.
So what CryptoBind KMS does, it keeps the keys on premise or in India-based infrastructure and never in a foreign cloud or their cloud providers control. So this directly satisfies the data sovereignty requirements. And our deployment at RBI in our own PCR project is the most tangible proof of it. So, when the Central Bank of India selects CryptoBind KMS for its own data protection infrastructure, it is the strongest possible validation of the product's compliance readiness. And that is what, we also support a HIPAA of health data. We also support SEBI cybersecurity framework and the UAE's personal data protection law. So which is relevant as we expand into the global market, the Gulf market. So that is what about the different laws, which are governed, by this CryptoBind
Yeah,
KMS.
Gaurav, that's correctly pointed out. I mean, the compliances in today's date is of utmost priority. And what we have discussed in earlier CryptoBind Digital Insights is how compliances can help the MSMEs to actually, work in their favor. And there's a lot of repercussions as well if you're like, not abiding by those compliances like DPDP and the RBI guidelines. There's a lot of fine that is attracted to MSMEs. So that's a great point in terms of compliances that you highlighted out. I would again would like to come to Harsh regarding the questions of how the enterprises decided to deploy CryptoBind KMS, and how does the journey look like. So if you have any pain points usually that show up in deployment of the CryptoBind, if you can also throw some light on that as well, Harsh.
Sure. So more than pain points, rather, I feel like there are certain aspects that each customer needs to be sure of, or they need to have complete visibility of before they, migrate towards a centralized key management kind of a system. First and foremost, there needs to be visibility as to where they want to deploy the solution. So if it is going to be an on-premise deployment, if it is going to be in cloud, it depends on their enterprise infrastructure, their security needs, their SLAs. All of these are contributing factors towards that decision. Second, like I said, since our device is one that can help you cover a lot of use cases and a lot of environments, a lot of systems and applications wherever key management is needed, there needs to be the right amount of visibility as to what are you actually trying to achieve with this KMS. Are you trying to do secrets management? Are you trying to do tokenization? Are you trying to encrypt data in your big data storage containers? Or if you are trying to encrypt your file servers? So that visibility needs to be there. I'm not talking about specifically understanding where the sensitive data is or what is sensitive data. It's just that there needs to be some strong direction or some strong baseline understanding of why we are having this system integrated. What are the integration points or applications that are going to get onboarded onto the KMS? That is a major this point. Apart from that, if at all there are any existing encryptions or any existing solutions where the keys are already being utilized, but they are expired or they are of an older standard, then there needs to be visibility of that as well. There are a lot of the times what happens is that there are scenarios of key sprawl, a lot of keys present across the environment in various locations. Older standards of encryption are being enforced, but again, no visibility into it. So that is something that should be there. Then, apart from that, another thing that I would like to highlight, since we're on this question specifically, is that having a key management system in your environment is not an overnight transition. You cannot simply push all of your applications or your databases, the key management aspect of those, you cannot have it done centrally in one go. So it needs to be a very, very properly well started out kind of a roadmap that yes, we're initially going to start maybe with only a certain set of databases that are going to be residing in non-prod environments. They're going to be in UAT environments. Production is obviously not recommended as something where you straight away implement centralized key management. So you need to do it step by step. Similarly, we have experience in the past where for a very, very major banking project, we deployed our key management system in phases. Some applications we onboarded first. After that, we onboarded most of their applications, and we're still in that phase where we are onboarding multiple applications. So it really is a question of scale, how many applications you're having in your environment, how sensitive are your operations, how much can you afford to take that risk that yes, I want to get this done faster versus I want to do this the right way. So these are the questions that need to be considered. These are the answers you need to have before you actually implement or deploy a key management system.
All right. So we need to have our questions and priorities clear before deploying the CryptoBind KMS in other words. Harsh,
Right.
you also talked about the use cases of CryptoBind KMS, right? So if you can also quote any example for any use case for CryptoBind KMS that we can, for the larger benefit of the audience, we can tell.
Sure. So, I mean, one of our marquee customers is SBI, State Bank of India.
Okay.
We all know it. It is the largest public sector bank in India, maybe one of the largest in the world as well. So the problem statement, or what SBI was actually the issue that they were facing, was that since it is such a huge bank, so many branches, so many departments spread across geographically, there was not enough centralized visibility as to what encryption standards are being maintained in which department, what solutions are being utilized for various security measures. So they were not saying that we don't have measures in place. They were having measures in place. They were having the encryption being done. There was just not enough visibility. And the challenge is visibility is very, very crucial. It is crucial. It was crucial back in the days. It is crucial now. Going forward into a PQC kind of a PQC era, it is going to be even more crucial. So we help them get this visibility by deploying a centralized key manager. We told them that, yes, you can continue to use your existing applications. You may have to upgrade to the latest cryptographic standards, latest algorithms, but all this key management or key lifecycle, key rotation, key generation will take place centrally. So we deployed an enterprise-wide key management system. We targeted some of their databases. We targeted their file servers. We targeted their BYOK cloud instances. We targeted their F5 WAF, which is Web Access Firewall, so the TLS encryption that is done. We targeted their analytics tools such as Power BI. Wherever the sensitive data is residing, wherever they are currently enforcing the encryption already, we were just like, we will have it done centrally through our KMS. So that is how the security team is having the control. They have the oversight, they have the visibility that yes, this is the solution, this is the tool, this is the key that is being utilized, and this is the status of that key, whether it is nearing expiry, whether it has already been compromised, whether it needs to be rotated. So that is the whole use case of SBI. The beauty of this use case or this particular deployment that we've done is that nowhere will you see so many use cases covered or so many problem statements covered under in one specific organization. So we're handling various, we're handling encryption and signing and tokenization at multiple places within SBI. So that is, again, like I said, if it is driven through a centralized platform, it is something which is quite commendable.
That's great, Harsh. While I understand the deployment in terms of the SBI as being one of the biggest bank in India, as well as on the world, this question particularly comes from the MSME point of view. So, for example, if any MSME who is actually watching this webinar for their own good, and if you'd like to give them a couple of good advices in terms of how this CryptoBind KMS can help the small and medium scale enterprises, what would be your two best advices for them to actually how to get started with it for the small medium scale enterprises who are actually aware of this KMS? They want their data to be protected, they want their security to be robust, and it needs to be a military grade security. But then again, from your point of view, a couple of advices that you would like to give to MSMEs.
First would be, don't wait for compliance to catch up to you.
Correct.
That is not the way to go.
Yeah.
We have seen so many such cases where
Correct.
Any organization who are under audit or under review, they come to us, they say that, boss, we need some kind of security measures, we need key management, we need encryption to be done, we are running out of time. So don't wait for the clock to reach zero. So don't do that. So start early. It gives you a lot of time to plan things out correctly. And as a consequence of that, you will not just enforce security for getting the tick mark in terms of compliance, but you will actually enforce security because you value data protection. So that is a very, I would say, crucial aspect of any MSME. I mean, in the end of the day, big or small, it is about following best practices, right? So having
That's
external key management, having hardware-backed security, these are all choices. And they're choices unless and until they become a compulsion. So don't wait for it to become a compulsion. When you have the choice, go for it. We are always there to help you out. We have experience not just in terms of dealing with big clients, but also with MSMEs and medium scale customers. Come to us, approach us, and we can help you out in that.
definitely. So mostly the conversations around being more of a proactive than to be a reactive. That's what you mean, right?
Right.
That's great. That's great. Thanks, Harsh, for sharing your insights on that. And finally, the big forward-looking questions is on quantum computing, and quantum computing is getting closer to reality. So I would again like to understand from Harsh, what does the post-quantum threat mean for key management, and how is GISA is positioned itself in this domain?
So post-quantum threats, if you talk about from like a threat landscape kind of a view, the threat that looms large currently, it is harvest now, decrypt later. So what harvest now, decrypt later is all about is these malicious third parties or any hackers, they are not concerned with having the data decrypted and accessed right now. They are storing, they're holding this encrypted data, waiting for quantum computing to catch up. Once they have the capabilities to decrypt this data through the power of quantum computing, they are going to utilize it to actually get hold of the plain text data. So harvest now decrypt later attacks are currently the threat. Going forward, there obviously is enough scope or enough opportunity for this threat landscape to grow. What we at CryptoBind are doing, or what the way that we see to solve this challenge, is making sure that companies going forward, once they have our product, they don't have to make a very big leap, or they don't have to make major changes to their applications, to their workflows, to adapt to a PQC-based approach. So PQC algorithms that are there, such as MLK or MLDSA, we have already integrated those into our KMS. We are in the process of integrating even more and more post-quantum cryptography relevant mechanisms into our products at large. So what this does is that it allows for crypto agility. You can transition to a PQC-based algorithm even before quantum computing timelines are, once you reach the deadline. So crypto agility is, from a KMS point of view, especially very, very crucial because, well, like I said, organizations are going to utilize KMS or key management with and integrated with multiple end applications. So they don't have to make very big leaps and changes going forward. That is how we are ensuring that our KMS is quantum safe or quantum agile.
That's great. Gaurav, would you like to also add on this narrative?
Yeah, definitely, Sharda. As what Harsh has just explained, I would like to reiterate what he has said. The concept that enables this transition is called crypto agility. So it is the ability to switch cryptographic algorithms without redesigning the entire security architecture. So cryptographic algorithms, KMS is designed with crypto agility at its core. When an organization needs to migrate from RSA to post-quantum algorithm, they update their key policies in the KMS rather than restructuring each and every application. So this is what is the benefit of KMS or migrating onto KMS before even the post-quantum computing comes into picture.
And just a follow-up question, Gaurav. What should organization do particularly? Especially, I'm talking about the MSMEs, the small-scale SMEs, and the medium and large-scale SMEs. So, what do organizations want to do particular to actually follow this?
Okay, so Shada, first thing is that they need to first, start their cryptographic inventory. They need to first identify what all cryptographic, keys they have, or different types of things they have, like know where they are using the RSAs or the ECCs, or what these data or those keys, what are the data which these keys are protecting, and how long is the data being, protected or it will remain confidential by using, these keys. So that is the first thing the company needs to know. Second is that centralize their key management now. They need to migrate onto KMS today. So, and that will actually help them. Migrating to post-quantum algorithm later will, it will be a problem. So if they migrated now on, if they migrated on a KMS, it will be very easier for them to migrate on the PQC or post-quantum computing very easily from here. So because we also do, and they have to, and the third thing which I would like to suggest them is that they should come to us, they talk to us, because we can do a, cryptographic readiness assessment for them. And we can show them exactly where their quantum exposure is. And the time to prepare is now. When the quantum computers will arrive, it will be very late. So they have to start acting on from today. That is what is my say on to the organizations about the post-quantum cryptography.
Yeah. That's a powerful closing note, by the way, Gaurav. The call to action is pretty much clear, as Harsh and you rightly pointed out, that we need to be more of a proactive than to be reactive. We should also keep in picture the availability, the KMS, the integrations, and every part done through CryptoBind KMS. And we should start as soon as possible to avoid the repercussions of the compliances. So thank you both, Gaurav and Harsh, for this incredibly rich and practical session. And thank you everyone who has joined us for this session. And we are open for questions now. So we'll open this dialog box for any questions for me, for Gaurav, or for Harsh. We'll be more than happy to answer that from the audience, please. Still, if people who are actually part of this webinar, if you guys have any questions, you can actually write to sales@gisosaftic.com. You can reach us to Gaurav, Harsh, or me over LinkedIn. You can follow our page. You can also follow the marketing team, who is taking a lot of effort to actually build this webinar series as well. With that being said, let's wind up and let's meet in the next episode of CryptoBind Digital Insights. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you everyone for being there as a patient listeners. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.